All right. Well, actually, the story begins here. So slavery was really important to the South, and since the country was established, the South has relied on cash crops like cotton to support its economy. It was the biggest export of cotton on a global scale. The Civil War began with the secession of deep southern states like South Carolina, which later broke into war. With the end of the Battle of Palmetto Ranch, the Union won, aka the North, and shortly after, the United States of America was back together. However, with the dawn of the Civil War, African American slaves were no longer slaves anymore. The 13th Amendment was passed, which states that all previously enslaved black people are now set free. As things started to look up once in a century, a silent war began to brew within the country. The story began during the Reconstruction era. Since the changes were so radical, the country needed to heal during this time period. Slaves were now set free within the South. New systems were being built in place to accommodate for the rising demand of labor. At the same time, the South's economy crashed because it lost its labor force. New systems were being built in place to accommodate this missing labor. For example, the sharecrop system. Most black people chose this since white folks would not choose a black man for a white man's job. At the same time, Reconstruction opened many more opportunities. As a result, the emancipation of Civil War helped reform previously enslaved people into a new social class. However, there was a reaction from traditional Southern whites who tried to suppress them and establish white supremacy. But you see, there's a problem here. When the slaves were set free, they lost their previous identity and started to venture into the unknown. The Deep South right after emancipation was a mess, and the economy of the South went into a rapid decline. This was due to the extraction of their property, in this case, slaves. And also, during the Civil War, fields were damaged and some of the equipment necessary for cotton was also destroyed. Since the South still needed to produce cash crops, the sharecrop system was created. This system paid a set amount of their harvest to the slaves for the field that they worked on. According to the contract, they are to work on the said farm and to cultivate 40 acres in corn and 20 acres in cotton, to assist in putting the fences on said farm in a good order to keep them so, and to do all other work on said farm necessary to be done to keep the same in good order and to raise good crop. The landowner expect results from the black people. The contract also needed them to do other work, such as putting in fences, but this system was proven unsuccessful since the workers needed to buy expensive material from local shop, which sold them at high prices, which mostly led to the workers being more in debt. Furthermore, the conditions that they lived in weren't really good either.
The way I was brought up, it was the way I lived it. These houses are the typical houses that we lived in here in the Mississippi Delta. Designed as a shotgun house. You can open the front door and look completely through the house. And the reason they did that, the boss man could come up to your house and he could look and make sure nobody was inside the house. Make sure that everybody was at the cotton field working. My mom and dad had one room, and my sisters and brother, we shared one room, exception of my mom would separate the female from the male with a sheet across the middle of the room. And we had a kitchen with a stove, a wooden stove, and a table in it. So your day started early, around 6 a.m. or earlier.
African American people also faced constant stereotypes, and some of these stereotypes are enforced by child's game. For example, one game was named Dip the Coon. It did not directly require hitting a black person, but hitting a target device attached on a balance plank upon which a black person sat. The target, if hit squarely, caused the sitter to be dumped into a tank below. These games are designed for kids that demean black people. Dumping someone into a tank below is similar to treating them as if they were still slaves, with no rights or feelings. The rooted racism is also spread throughout America. The disdainful looks from a white person is prevalent throughout the country.
You see, when things already looked bad, it took a turn to the worse. You see, Southerners, they never looked at blacks as true Americans.
To the Southerners, they were just a threat to their women, children, and their jobs. With the rising number of freed blacks, white Southerners had employed a strategy. W.E.B. Du Bois later observed, using a technique of mass and midnight murder, the South began widely organized aggression upon the Negroes. This level of suppression also led to the development of their hate group, mostly known as the KKK. This group of people were largely spread across the South and mostly valued white supremacy. They do crimes that involve terrorizing, killing, and suppressing minority groups. For example, they characterized the non-whites as dirt, scum, and filth. The Klan appealed to war-inspired spirit of 100% Americanism. The organization also led to problems with groups that were willing to incorporate people of color. For example, the United Mine Workers had been a standing organization that welcomed African Americans and immigrants. Since the UMW had benefits that directly contradicted the beliefs of the KKK, the UMW decided that they would expel any union members who joined the KKK. Another case would be when, on October 29, 1869, Councilman decided to kill a 52-year-old Abraham Colby, a formerly enslaved American who was being elected to Congress. Before the attack took place, Councilman tried to bribe Mr. Colby to change the parties of the office. Later, when he refused his offer, Mr. Colby testified, "The mob took me to the woods and whipped me for 3 hours or more and left me there for dead."
The politicide of African Americans within the South. So, they particularly targeted African Americans who voted. They even more so targeted African Americans who held office. And in many cases, they didn't go to the African Americans who held office in order to say, you need to resign your office or we're going to be back. They went in and they killed them outright.
Even though black people faced constant discrimination in the South, they also started to form communities. The black church was really important, and it served an important role in shaping the rights of African Americans. For example, the Episcopal Church had argued the case for equality within the church by bearing witnesses to the fatherland of God and the brotherhood of all men. By putting all men under the name of God, it implies that all men deserve to be treated equally since they are from the descent of the fatherland. Churches used religion arguments to defend the rights of African Americans, which helped them to form a fortitude community. During this time, a lot of black leaders also emerged. Booker T. Washington, a formerly enslaved person who urges for the acceptance of discrimination for the time being, concentrated on elevating themselves through hard work and material prosperity. He believed in education, in crafts, industrial and farming skills, and the cultivation of the virtues of patience, enterprise, and thrift. Washington is a person who urges for hard work and the achievement of wealth. Being more acceptable to discrimination would lead to fewer conflicts with different groups. Since ideals were more moderate and less progressive, he would win the respect of white leaders and other popular black leaders. For example, when Booker T. Washington was giving a speech in Atlanta, he claims that black people should cast down your bucket where you are. Because they were dying of thirst, casting your bucket down is basically saving yourself. He urges for black people to gain their power through self-development and labor force. Du Bois, on the other hand, wanted immediate political change and social change. He thinks that Booker T. Washington's strategy was too conservative and only appealed to white supremacists. In the debate between the two, Du Bois claimed that Washington bantered way too much that was not his to banter. This shows that Du Bois felt that Washington sacrificed too much of black people's rights without their consent. Du Bois also publicly criticized Washington's economic plan by saying that, "I do not believe that economic progress would cause the white South to change the direction of things." He implies that economic progress will not change how white people think of black Americans, and he separates economic prosperity and equal treatment into two different categories. In conclusion, African Americans during the Reconstruction era faced major discrimination, and within the chaos, African Americans reacted by rebuilding their communities, new pathways, and in the end, they started to develop their own identities and form their own communities by resisting centuries of oppression.